My name is Jerry Smith, and I was originally born in Raleigh, North Carolina, but grew up in Wilson, North Carolina, and I went to high school in Wilson at Wilson Hunt, graduated there in 1986, and went to undergrad at UNC Chapel Hill, graduated from there in 90, went to law school at North Carolina Central in Durham, and graduated from there in 1993, and through various jobs and meeting my wife, ended up in Washington, D.C., where we lived in Alexandria, right outside of D.C., from 96 until 2000. And then in 2000, we moved to Henderson County and ultimately to Hendersonville, and have been here ever since. I started out practicing law, and not long after I started practicing law, I woke up before I went to work one day, and I realized that I had to go to work the rest of my life. And the place I started practicing, which was in Charleston, South Carolina, a civil litigation firm. I did what most attorneys do, a lot of grunt work. And when we moved to Washington, D.C. for my wife to do her residency at Georgetown, I did not want to take another bar exam. And so I decided to look into teaching while I was there, with the idea that I'd be moving back to North Carolina one day. And while I was there, I taught at two schools. I taught at Wakefield High School and Hayfield Secondary School. I really enjoyed the experience. I also coached baseball there. And so when I moved back to North Carolina, specifically moving back to Hendersonville, I told my wife that I would like to continue teaching, and I looked for a job and was offered a job at AC Reynolds and offered a job at Hendersonville High School. Fell in love with Hendersonville High School, and that really was enough to get me to teach there. And I told my wife on more than one occasion that if it doesn't work out at Hendersonville, I'll go to another job, because it's the only place I like to teach.
When did you start at Hendersonville?
I started in the fall of 2000, so this year is my 11th year of teaching at the high school.
What do you teach there?
I teach civics and economics, and I teach world history. I've also taught contemporary law and justice when we offer that class, and I'm the mock trial coach, and I also help with the Key Club and FCA. Well, I started playing saxophone in the 6th grade, like a lot of students do, and I started out with alto and went to tenor when I got to middle school, and played all through high school. Even played, one year I did not play football, and I played in the jazz band, but the other 3 years I played football. Excuse me, I played in the marching band. Then I went to Carolina undergrad and did not pick up my horn for 2 years. And my junior year in college, I asked my dad at Christmas time if we could get a saxophone, and he agreed, and we got a saxophone. And I ended up trying out for the jazz band at Carolina and made the jazz band, and took a class in jazz improvisation, which I really enjoyed. And ever since then, I've had a real passion for jazz improvisation and for all the jazz greats, and have maintained playing my horn either on my own, or now Miss Shelton is kind enough to let me play with the jazz band at Hendersonville High School, and so I sit in and play with them as often as I can.
Oh, that's great. Do you play any other places?
Well, actually, I'm performing in my father-in-law's wedding this coming weekend, so you get the occasional interesting gig like that. Last year I played at the Flat Rock Playhouse when they did Rocky Horror Picture Show. They had a pit band, and I played in that as well. So you get to do fun things like that when you're playing your horn. played baseball all my life, and through college I played baseball at Carolina, and I started coaching when I started teaching. There was a coach who was looking for an assistant coach at at Hayfield Secondary School, and his name was Ron Sims, and I coached there while I was working on my master's degree in secondary education, and actually ended up teaching there, and really enjoyed it. When we moved down here, coaching was what helped me get a job. Hendersonville was looking for a baseball coach at the time and a social studies teacher, and so Chuck Presley hired me, and I took the job and made some dramatic, meaning me and coaches and players and parents, made some dramatic changes to the baseball field. And I had a lot of fun coaching baseball at Hendersonville. Some very fond memories. We had some great teams. I had great players and great parents and great coaches, and played in a very competitive conference, and it was a lot of fun. And I got a chance to coach with my dad, which was a very meaningful experience for me, and really enjoyed that experience, and will always treasure that. I don't know if you want to know this. I've been much more involved coaching youth soccer and Little League baseball now. My son JT is about to start baseball. My daughters Martha and Miriam are both big soccer players. So I have become a soccer coach, which I've really enjoyed as well because I love the game of soccer.
Yeah, that's great. I was going to talk about, too, the transformations you made at the Meadows Field, or the Green Meadows Field. It was incredible. If you can talk about what it looked like when you first got there.
So when we first got to the field at Green Meadows, just some of the things. The outfield, the fence around the park, the outfield fence was 3 feet high. It was like that you would see on a softball field, and it didn't even connect. There were like spots where there was no fence in the outfield. So we put a 6-foot fence in all the way around the outfield. We put a 10-foot fence in down the foul lines to the outfield. We also had a problem because the players had no place to change. So they would drive into practice every day, and they'd be out there in the parking lot changing clothes, which is not always a pretty sight. So we took the building at Green Meadows, and what we called the Den, and we built locker rooms in the upstairs, and we spent some cold winter days nailing and sanding and spray painting and putting that all together. And it truly was a labor of love, and it was quite an honor for me and the players and the parents to be involved in that, to build something like that for the team. In addition, we pulled the fence up so that there would be a place to sit behind home plate, and we put a new backstop in. We also did some improvements to the batting cage, and then of course the other big one was there were no dugouts there. And so that was a really cold winter when we were lugging center block all over the place and putting new dugouts in. In fact, the season we had the dugouts, we didn't have roofs on the dugouts till like almost the end of the season. So we were playing games with no roof over the dugout. But I take great pride in the teamwork that all the players and parents put into building that. And it was a great experience watching that field grow. And the only downside of that was the flood in '04, which basically washed the infield away and required some new work to be done. But other than that, the rebuilding of that field was a labor of love. I had always had an eye to want to do something like this, and quite honestly, back in '09 when there was an open seat at that time because Greg was leaving, I just decided that it was a good time to run for that open seat. And I talked to my wife, and I did as much research as I could as to what the time commitment and what issues the city council would be dealing with, and felt like I could make a meaningful contribution. And so I ran and enjoyed the campaign, and have enjoyed being on city council immensely. It's a great honor, and it's a lot of fun to be involved with the issues that make our city a really great city to live, and have a chance to contribute to the vision that we'd like to feel like Hendersonville is fulfilling each day as we meet the needs of the citizens. Well, I have a great family. I love my wife and my children to death, and I have obviously extended family, my parents and my brother and my brother and sisters-in-law. So, my priority obviously is to take care of my family first, and I see myself being involved with my children's activities, enjoying coaching them as long as I can, and watching them grow and enjoying that here in Hendersonville. That's why I like living here, because I think ultimately my children are getting a great childhood, and I take pride in having a part in helping provide that for them. So I just look forward to continuing to develop as a person and grow and fulfill whatever God has for me to fulfill right here in Hendersonville.